These are two prophetic icons which were painted at the end of the 18th century, according to the prediction of able foreteller. One of them was painted in March 1796 by Abel's lay brother Lazarus, who was an icon painter. This icon was painted 8 months before Empress Catherine's death. The words of predictions were painted on the borders of the icon. The icon was drawn by Empress's law. After this, Abel, with the icon painter, was banished to the Petropavlovsk fortress, which is in Ladoga. The nativity of the birth giver of God, which is on the 21st of September, is painted on the icon. The sign on the icon is the nativity of the birth giver of God. Now I'll tell you the words of predictions that are written on the icon. So, on the left you can see, in 5035 your son will mount the throne, for 4 years, 4 months and 4 days. On the bottom, in 5263, after a horrible war, your blessed relatives will mount the throne. In 6019 will be the end of the perishable world, because it's too sinful. There is also one prediction on the right, but it's very difficult to translate it. So later we will tell you only its probable explanation. The prediction about the time of reign of the Emperor Pavel I came true when Catherine II was alive. Pavel ruled the country 4 years, 4 months and 4 days. The lower prediction tells us about the coming of the blessed Tsar to the throne. It's written that he will come after a horrible war. The next is a prediction about the end of the world. And the last one is about the name of the Tsar. It is said that he will come on the 21st of September. His name is twice among saints. There are 2 saints from Romanov's dynasty, who were canonized by the Russian Orthodox Church abroad. The first one is Michael Nikitich Romanov. In 1602 he died as a martyr. By the way, he was the uncle of the first Tsar from Romanov's dynasty. Nikolai II prepared all the necessary documents for his and Emperor Pavel I's canonization. It should have been done on the 23rd of March 1917 at the council, but the February Revolution prevented him from doing it. And the second saint is Michael II Alexandrovich, the youngest brother of the last Tsar. One small explanation. The dates are written in a strange way. Nowadays we don't write them this way. We can decode them in different ways. That's why the explanation is complicated. Either 200 years ago the rules of writing the dates differed from our modern rules, or Abel didn't want to reveal the prediction, especially the prediction of the doomsday. Even Jesus Christ didn't tell us the time of it, saying that only his Father knows it. And this icon was painted by icon painter Lazarus at Emperor Pavel I's request, according to the prediction of Abel foreteller about the last Tsar. The epistle of Pavel I said, "To my descendant Nikolai, who was born on the day of memory of Saint Job long-suffering. Open it in the 100th year after my death." This icon was joined to the epistle. This icon was painted in May 1798. It was 70 years before Emperor Nikolai's birth. Now I'll give you the explanation to this icon. You will ask, why do the words of predictions were written on the icon the nativity of the birth giver of God? Actually, there was written that the Tsar would come in the nativity of the birth giver of God. On this feast, it means that he would come on the 21st of September. There is also the sign after a horrible war. Also that icon, which was bequeathed to Nikolai with the epistle, "To my descendant Nikolai, who was born on the day of Saint Job's death, open it in 100th year after my death," went annihilated. Bolsheviks didn't know the prediction and didn't attach great importance to it, so they sold it to a private collection. So this icon changed hands 3 times until the last collector died in Moscow in 2005. After this, the icon was stolen. The robbers tried to take it through the customs, but were caught. The icon was confiscated. The policeman called to an antique shop in St. Petersburg and offered the owner of the shop to come with an expert to the customs. The policeman also had an expert, so they talked about the price. And in the end, they fixed the time of the painting this icon. And it appeared that this icon was painted on the 18th century. But they didn't manage to fix the price. According to their opinion, this icon was fabricated. So they displayed this icon with a low price. But even then, no one wanted to buy this icon. Then this icon was given to the chapel of Nikolai. According to the monk Abel's testimony, the Tsar Nikolai was painted on this antique icon in 1798. It's an absolute copy of any of his portraits. There is a sign, Great Martyr Nikolai, above the image. The icon was painted 70 years earlier Tsar's birth. The icon is a prophetic one. There are hagiography scenes and the history of monarchy in Russia. The prophet Abel foresaw everything, though the photo is bad, but if you look at the bottom of the icon from the left to the right, you will see the Tsar giving his crown to a priest. The prediction tells us that the priesthood is guilty of the fall of monarchy at the beginning of the 20th century. On the third day after the revolution, on the divine liturgy, they started to pray for the so-called PS provisional government, and according to their rule, they had to pray for the approaching Tsar from Romanov's dynasty. And what is more, they tried to slander the Tsar. There were 70% of peasants in Russia at that time. There was no radio, no TV, and also the peasants didn't read newspapers. That's why they got news only from the priests. And on the 18th of March, as it was the Lent, almost everyone went to the church. People were surprised that there was no Tsar anymore. The same was with the monarchy. They were shocked because they had to pray for the so-called PS provisional government. The priest told people that the Tsar was weak, bloody, and also told that that was he who led Moscow and the whole Russia to the war. By the way, the priesthood proclaimed the beginning of a new life without exploiters. This fragment was taken from the memories of the parishioners of Pskov region. Blessed Pasha of Sarov and Venerable Seraphim of Sarov predicted the betrayal to Nikolai II. This event was painted on the icon 119 years before it happened in a real life. The Tsar's family was in imprisonment either in Tobolsk or in Yekaterinburg. They were executed by shooting. The murder of the Tsar's family was made by the same people. And finally, the grave. There is a sign, was buried in unknown place. The place was really dissembled. Nowadays some people deceive us, glorifying someone's remains at the Tsar's and his family's relics. Also, there are the images of the events connecting either with the youth of Tsar Nikolai or with the life of his son Alexei. But we think that there are the images of a saint prophet's adolescent Vyacheslav. Great Martyr Grigory Rasputin Novых predicted his birth. He told that if Tsar Nikolai II won't sacrifice his son Alexei, there won't be an adolescent in Russia, and if there is no adolescent, there won't be the last Tsar. The monks in Caucasus had a vision. They saw Saint Adolescent Vyacheslav keeping the crown of the approaching Tsar. On the left, the third image from the top of the icon is the image of a defeated warrior who lies next to the field marquee. It embodies the First World War, which was lost. On the right, the third from the top image looks like the crossway of the Tsar's family, and the most magnificent is the second image from the top of the right of the icon. Is the image of a rider on a horse in Tsar clothes. The image of the approaching Thou winner. According to the predictions of saints, the name of the last Tsar is Michael. It's said in the book of Saint Daniel. There are such words: "And at that time shall Michael stand up, the great prince which standeth for the children of thy people. And there shall be a time of trouble, such as never was since there was a nation, even to that same time. And at that time thy people shall be delivered, every one that shall be found written in the book." The Tsar will mount the throne in Russia, independently of people's desire. He will be an enemy of the Antichrist, who will rule in the West. But the members of future Russia will be only the people who repent of their sin of perjury and murder of Tsar Nikolai, because exactly Tsar Nikolai is like the door which leads to our rescue, like Jesus Christ. You can read such words in the Gospel: "I am the door, by me if any man enter in, he shall be saved, and shall go in and out, and find pasture." The main is to glorify the Tsar the right way. You cannot pray to the Tsar as to a usual matter. For example, if someone didn't repudiate Christ before heathens, and because of it was killed, then this person is a martyr. But the Tsar made the highest feat crowned with martyr death. Properly, the redemption of the sin of Russian people. Perjury is a terrible sin. It's very difficult to whitewash it. And that people who pray to the Tsar the right way will be saved, and will help others to save their souls. Let's worship to him as to a ransomer of Russian people's sin. It's said that we have only one ransomer, Jesus Christ. Of course we know it. But Jesus Christ is the ransomer whom we write with a capital letter, and the Tsar is the ransomer with a small one, because the Tsar partially repeated the feat of Jesus Christ, because he didn't participate in the sin, but drank the cup of the God's wrath instead of his people. He sacrificed not only himself, but the whole his family, and the most difficult for him was to sacrifice his son. According to the last historic research, they weren't just shot in the cellar of Hypatia's house, but were shot up to the waist, to make them unable to resist, and then their killers crucified them in their own beds, slowly letting the blood out. It's a ritual murder, and our Tsar Nikolai II has his own book of life. As our God has a book of life in which the names of people who will be saved are written down, so the Tsar has his own book of life, where the names of his loyal subjects are written down. It means the name of people who didn't betray him, who didn't repudiate him. He won't leave alone people who glorify, worship, and pray to him the right way. It was averted to one priest that the Tsar has his own book of life, and there are the people who pray for Russia are written down. The Tsar is the image of the God, the life icon of the King of Heaven. An exceptional service on the earth was given to him by the God. His feat is an exceptional one. It can't be compared with anything. It can be compared only with the Christ Calvary sacrifice. It wasn't without reason that in many appearances the God stresses how the Tsar is close to him. Elderly nun Ksenia from Diveeva had a vision that the Tsar sits on the God's right as his favorite disciple, a particular executor of his will. He sits on the Lord's Supper with the Christ. 2 months before this elderly nun's death, Schema nun Margaret saw a dream. The Tsar sat on the high throne, and innumerable assemblies of saints came to bow before him.